everyone, it's Sevy. I never thought I'd get the privilege of ever saying this, but Kuro actually reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to try out the 3.0, yeah, that's right, Wuthering Waves version 3.0 LAHAI-ROI on their own client. And they basically had to fly me out because they wanted to be top secret. They didn't really want to send it. They didn't want to like risk anything leaking out. And also they did have like a pretty beta build version of us to try it out. But essentially I got to try out Wuthering Waves 3.0 early and it was amazing. And I only had 2 hours to do it. It was really hard to like try to experience everything in 2 hours. In fact, they even gave us the choice to try out experiencing the 3.0 story already, which I didn't want to do because if you don't know yet, I'm still catching up on the 2.x stuff. I'm pretty darn close. I'm going to be doing 2.6 soon. But anyway, I got to try a lot of stuff such as the new characters Lene, Mourer, the new area exploration, some new mechanics. I got to fight new enemies, new bosses, and I'm going to give you a rundown of what I got to try and how it was because I'm so excited about it now that I've actually tried it. Yeah, so it was a pretty like secret kind of exclusive event and I swear it's real. Okay, here's my proof of life. Here's my photo that I tweeted, and I know I was like trying to be mysterious about it, but that basically I got to be there with some Wuwa staff and a few other creators, which was really fun. But yeah, it's real. Okay, guys, I'm not lying. But anyway, on with the video. Okay, so the first thing I want to start with is actually the motorbike exploration. Now, we all saw it in the teaser, how fun it looked. Everyone is just like, wait, what? We get to mount a motorbike? What? We get to do this in first person? Yeah, we get to do this in first person and third person. And as someone who kind of has skill issue when it comes to navigating mounts, I vastly preferred the first person. It was really, really fun. And they also have like this autopilot mode where, well, yeah, you can autopilot on certain roads and then you can even turn it on cinematic mode. And then the cinematic bars come in and there's music playing in the background and it feels like you're literally in a film. And I just think that this was really such a fun way to traverse LAHAI-ROI because LAHAI-ROI, it comes off as this old ancient world that's almost exotic. It almost feels like a different planet. But then the Star Torch Academy, it's established its engineering and research institution there. So it's like there's a lot of highways and dams and technology and engineering, and it's not quite urbanized, but it's a developed area. And I think that it's such an interesting vibe that they created with how they've built the scenery and like integrated the base and basically like how they integrated the people and the culture there as well. So the arc of the area is kind of like back to school, right? You might have seen like the teaser that they just released now from the Game Awards where it's like, oh, okay, we're going back to school. And I walked around Star Torch Academy and I saw these robots that were basically telling students like, haha, your deadline's coming up, or oh, they denied your research delay proposal, sorry, or your budget's being cut, just lower the scope and then watch it grow. So basically, we're entering Star Torch Academy and it's all going to be fun and interesting in research, but also it's their take on academia hell. You know, if you've been to school, you know how difficult school is. And if you've ever been to graduate school, then you're probably tearing your hair out. And that's kind of what they're trying to give in like a comedic kind of way. But of course, there's going to be some interesting stuff too. Now, like I said, I didn't go into the story, but I have a lot of faith that it's going to be really interesting and really fun and that they're going to tell it very, very well also. And I'm really looking forward to the characters as well. But that being said, just walking around Star Torch, it has this vibe of like Star Trek Academy and also a bit like, I don't know if you've watched Gundam Witch from Mercury, but the university there, like there's also a little bit of that, you know, it's sleek, it looks high tech, there's floating stuff, there's robots, there's holograms, there's like a simulation thing where you can fight holograms also. And the vibe is just like on another level. I was almost afraid that the entire place would just be that vibe where it's kind of this just monotonous spaceship type thing. But what I think they did to make it interesting is that, like I said, they integrated it into a world that has huge plants, really interesting beasts that are almost like part robotic also. And those huge plants and all this really old age looking nature, it reminded me of the Avatar film franchise where it's like the blue avatars, you know, because that planet, it's vibrant. It's full of color when it comes to the flora and fauna and the biodiversity of it. There are some areas that are more populated, some areas that are more natural, some areas that aren't really developed. And there's also a desert area where the sandworm that you saw in that teaser, yeah, that thing pops up. And it's really cool. You're driving through the desert and the boss bar appears and then the sandworm digs out and it's like, hello, Shai Hulud from Dune. And it's just all these sci-fi tropes that I feel like they're integrating really interestingly and I hope seamlessly into one area. And it's just that this exploration vibe, this exploration experience, I really want to highlight it because, for all that Wuwa gets talked about for really cool characters, really cool combat, and also good story, as a pretty casual player myself, I've found myself getting relatively immersed in the exploration experience in Huanglong, much more in Renacita, and I think I'm really, really, really going to enjoy LAHAI-ROI. Now, there were some other things, smaller things that I got to try out, like these areas that you can enter, and they have like some really strong enemies as well, and they do give big rewards. And in fact, these enemies, they felt more difficult than the bosses because it was like several strong enemies that you have to defeat in a row. I came close to dying once, even with like fully leveled characters. And then there are also these like little creatures that you have to collect. It's a little bit like the Aranara hunting, I'm going to be completely honest, except that these guys, at least in the client build, they had markers on the map. So I don't think they're going to be nearly as annoying to find. But there are these guys that you want to collect for like to unlock certain mechanics for your exploration and all that. And I just thought that these are really nice, cool details that they're adding, of course, so that you have more interactions in the open world. But overall, I'm just really excited for the open world experience of it because like everything looks really nice. And this is just one area of the upcoming region. Of course, there's probably going to be more expanded areas, but even just what I saw of that, like I can't wait to traverse it on my motorbike, on foot. There's details here and there, and the entire vibe of it. Actually, it is what I want from the sci-fi experience of it. It doesn't feel like pure future sci-fi. It's like sci-fi mixed a little bit with like old age, like literally an old world that they're trying to revive with science and engineering. And I think that's super cool, especially relating to how the characters they're studying, they're researching, and they're there in the academy. And we're gonna learn more about those characters in the future too. Now here I just want to talk more a bit about Mornier and Linné because I did get to try them out. I used them against a bunch of bosses and exploring them in the open world. Basically, they kind of had a default team for us, which was Linné, Mornier, and Chisa. So I kind of just like played with them throughout the entire time. But of course, I'm not really giving any team suggestions here. I'm just telling you what the experience was like. Again, I'm going to focus a bit on Mornier here because personally, I do find her really interesting. And yeah, she's a research engineer and professor at Star Torch. And she has a very interesting kit. Now, please don't expect anything too detailed from this for two reasons. One is that I don't do guides anymore. I used to for Genshin. I never have for Wuwa. And I'm not really into all that meta stuff. I'm playing Wuwa very casually. And two, because Wuwa wants to keep all of this top secret. Like, I actually had to run this info by them to see what I could and could not discuss. And they did shave off a few things, which I'm sure they're going to reveal to you soon. Among the info that I am allowed to share with you, Mornier is a support and healer. She's basically like a sustained support, and she has healing abilities and she has other defensive abilities, which I'm going to talk about shortly. She also has damage amplification abilities, which is really cool. So she is also functioning as a buffer. She's also a tunability support. So tunability is this entire mechanic that I sort of read as like an additional stagger, poise, break bar that you can use to inflict additional damage. Like I said, I'm not here to go into too much detail. I know that you can preview it a bit in the 2.8 event, but this is going to be a bigger thing in the 3.0. And they actually mentioned this a little bit in like the archives, whatever that they showed at one point or they teased at one point. But anyway, Mornier has mechanics that are going to complement that and that are going to allow her teammates to dip more into that entire tunability thing against enemies. She basically does a bunch of stuff, okay? Like she does a bunch of support functions that I think in LAHAI-ROI, a lot of teams are going to find really, really useful. And you as a player are also going to really, really like. Now, I'm going to tell you what I really liked about her. She has like a safety parry where her skill can negate an enemy attack, When I said she has additional defensive functions, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you see this in her animation as well, where she kind of just like blocks the enemy. She doesn't take any damage from it. And I thought that that was really interesting. And, you know, as a casual player myself, I really appreciate that. You know, I like to have a relatively chill experience. I don't really like to die. So I do wonder if that's going to be appealing to you guys. Let me know in the comments. Her 4-day circuit has like a trillion functions. Like, I was reading through it, I was like, holy, there's so much text here. But what I was able to glean from it, and this is just a few things off the top of my head, she can enter a state that generates a field, and then she's also floating around in the air while she's in that state. And I also really like that she can enter that state even outside of combat, so that when you're exploring with her, she's just floating, like she's just chilling. And it's really fun and really cool. And then that field, it can also restore HP for the team. And I gotta tell you, that healing, it was pretty potent. Like, I was fighting a really, really hard enemy in one of their difficult areas, and I actually came close to dying. Like, all my characters were at red. She put up that field. My characters, they did not die. They were almost at full HP before I knew it. And yeah, that field can also enhance interruption resistance of resonators, which is really cool. You know, if you're not that experienced in like dodging, then this is probably going to help you a bunch. She has a bunch of mechanics that help you or that support the tunability thing, which you are going to want to take advantage of, because it did feel like LAHAI-ROI had like harder enemies. So if you need to deal more damage, that tunability is going to come in handy a lot. So playing Mornier, personally, like, I really, really liked her. I think I'm going to pull her, guys. Like, I know that when they teased the Star Torch Academy students, my eyes were on Luke. After having tried Mornier, like, I'm really interested in having her on my team, just because she was a really comfortable support. Aside from liking her animations and liking her model and what she looks like, I ended up really, really liking her gameplay. And then I got to play Linné for a bit. And first of all, really cool that she gets to skate around. She can just skate around in the overworld. It's chill. She's chilling, and it's smooth. It's easy. She's gliding through. Now, I didn't go and look too in depth with her kit, because she, as far as I could tell, she basically was there to deal damage. Now, she does it in a very flashy fashion. You know, she has her spray paint. She has her rainbows. She has her pizzazz. She has her style. And I actually love the flair that she brings to it. I think she's going to be a pretty popular character looks wise, and also with her themes and all that color that she gets to throw into it. And it looks like, judging from the latest Wuthering Waves Game Awards teaser, she's also going to be close to the rover, which is fun, of course. She gets to be like a main character in the Star Torch Academy arc. Mornier, Linné, Chisa, it was a pretty fun team to go through LAHAI-ROI with. And honestly, like I said, between the two, I am super interested in Mornier. I do think that players who are looking for like a very, very flashy playstyle, well, to be fair, both Mornier and Linné have flashy playstyles, like in different ways. But for those looking for a flashy damage dealer, I think Linné is going to be really, really fun. Of course, there are a lot of other characters that will be coming out. So, you know, those who will feel the need to save and just look forward to who's coming and what the next characters do, of course, yeah, that's your prerogative. But I'm just saying that I really had a fun time going through LAHAI-ROI with these characters, and even battling like the new bosses. One thing that made Mornier feel much more comfortable to me, actually, as a character, is that there were a bunch of characters that did aerial combat, like both bosses and non-bosses. And because Mornier's attacks, like, she gets to rise up into the air, she gets to fly around and float around a bit, she actually has an easier time reaching those bosses than Linné does. Now, Linné can also like jump up, and she can also do some like upper kicks and flips and stuff like that, which do help her hit those. But then, yeah, I just had a pretty comfy time with Mornier overall. So I know that I'm just yapping a bunch about her at this point. I guess I'm like a Mornier fan, but it was just really cool. And yeah, that was basically my experience playing her at this top secret Kurogames event. I'm really sad that I can't show you guys any footage of what happened, but you know, you guys are going to see it in less than a month. Actually, in just a few weeks, you're going to be able to experience it for yourself. And I'm really excited for you to do that. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you for listening. Again, I know I usually do this with camera, but I'm literally like recording this on the go. So leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll see you soon. Take care.